I'm not like a big, like, I got to go to Broadway 3 times a month, that kind of guy. But like, I feel for the people who really are here for the culture.
Right.
I'm here. My job is here. My family, my mother.
Yeah.
But like, if you were here, like I moved here because, MoMA and like I have to get to the Whitney and like, there's a new La Boheme is, like,
yeah.
I feel for you because that's like really pricey. It's like, be better to be into heroin than it is to Broadway. It's cheaper.
It's Breaking Bread.
Good to see you, Dave.
Hello. I was just fishing at text.
Use a flippity phone.
Yeah.
Do you always flip phone?
Oh, I don't know where to start. I think this is the way to go. Full circle. Come right back to the flip.
Did you go to the smartphone ever?
I have one of those as well.
You have 2 phones?
Yes.
Jeez, you're big time.
When you're running multiple cyber accounts plus a comedy career, you have to, give people a way to get in touch. That's why this is great, to disconnect. Just you, me, and I believe the barking of a dog.
Of a very, very sad dog down the hallway.
Really sad.
Just chained inside.
I have no idea what's going on in there.
Just a lot of yelping and scratching. Do you ever have pets, Dave?
Yeah, I have. Is this a therapy session?
Yes.
I've had dogs. We've had fish, a turtle.
Who is your favorite?
I would say that, fish, first of all, you got to really love it. It's a lot of cleanup. You got to really want it. But I would say the dogs are the way to go.
Right.
But we never could really, like, what I'm saying? Like, we always had a problem with the dog and, it's just so sad.
That was my problem. My father would get impatient. We wouldn't train the dog. Yeah. And then the dog would do something like eat a sofa cushion. And then my father would give away the dog.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, we would never do that. We would just live with the dog and like adjust our lives around that dog. But yeah, like, the whole dogs can't eat chocolate.
Yeah.
Well, I remember our dog who would just grab stuff off the table, ate this giant Hershey's Kiss that I got from my mom. I was like maybe 12 or something like that. I was like, and ate the whole thing. And then just out of every hole, just like fluids coming out of the dog. It was it was traumatic, actually. And we were like, it's like, oh, she's done. No, there's another round coming,
Oh, jeez.
So that was,
I bought you these 2 chocolate almond croissants from Vesuvio Bakery.
No way.
Yeah, it's the holidays.
That's fantastic.
I hope you enjoy them.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice of you. I'm on a strict, don't eat during a podcast diet. Here's to us.
Here's to us. It's so good to see you, Dave. You've always been. I am one of the.
I'm a fan, Tom,
of one of my heroes.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. I've been phoning in the last few years, but you have me completely right now. So, what goes on here? Breaking bread. Is that really what we're talking about?
It's really just what we're doing.
Yeah.
Just sitting, 2 friends, spending some time with each other.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
how do you eat at home normally? Who cooks for you?
These are really kind of in-depth things for like a right off the bat. I mean, don't we have a camera angle to adjust again and again and again? What do I eat at home? I think, you're a married man. I'm, of course, a bachelor. So I eat whenever I feel like it. And I don't like to eat before I go on, whether it's on the road or at home. So I eat around 3 a.m. because I go on very late.
Right.
So it's really weird to have soup at 3 a.m. It's kind of like a Valley Forge kind of thing, just sad, alone. You don't have to fake laugh. We can always
on the windows, just eating.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's very sad.
You've always been.
I've always been a soup. Oh, I thought you were keep roll on soup for a while.
You've always been a
lone
wolf. A lone wolf.
A lone wolf. A late night man.
I've never heard of a Dave Attell girlfriend.
Yeah,
I've never heard of
the lady in my life is my mother who has dementia. And I knew that would silence you. No one knows what to say. But, I do love in the papers now they have all the warning signs of dementia and that you might have it. And guess what one of them is? Forgetfulness. Oh, really? Wow.
Only I'd known.
Who was a guy wearing a lab coat when he came up with that one? Or really? You can't remember anything? Oh, wow.
Oh, how long has she had dementia?
It starts it builds and it starts way, way earlier than you know. So
yeah.
like repeating of stories and all that kind of stuff. That's like kind of the beginning of
Uh-huh.
it. Forgetfulness, of course.
Right.
And then like just like weird thing, like, oh, I parked the wrong way. I can't remember where I parked, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
That's all like the beginning of it. And we're all like in that same boat. But as of now, I really, I have no idea. Like, me and my sister are pretty much the primary care people. And it's like every day is an adventure. You never
Right.
know what's going to happen and what you're going to get. And then there is like, just the sadness of losing someone you love, because really they're not there anymore, So
I know. I had
I don't want to bring everyone down this early in the podcast.
That's right. It's just me, and I'm not down about it.
Okay. Well, you're not excited about it, are you?
No, but yeah, really.
Some of us want to forget. I mean, I could say there's a lot of things I'd be like, you know what? I really don't care.
Right. Wipe all of this out.
Yeah, just get rid of it.
My grandfather had a stroke when I was a teenager.
No way.
And he was the funny one in my family. No. Like he was like really the storyteller, the guy.
Yeah.
And I went to visit him right after, and he lived for probably, I don't know, 6 more years. But seeing him initially in the hospital, like it was just all gone.
Breaks, yeah.
Oh, that was heartbreaking. Just that was his superpower, and it was just he was there, but he wasn't there. It was tough.
Yeah, I say this pretty much whenever I get a chance. Anybody who's dealing with this, there's a lot of people. Like I'm pretty lucky, I make a decent living, so I can afford round the clock care, and it's a lot of work. The people we have working are more family now than they are workers or employees. They're really like a part of us. So we're very lucky to have them. And anybody who's out there dealing with this, I really feel for you, because like not only is it something that I didn't hear about it in the campaigns or anything like that, but we did see it on a debate, and that it's a real thing and really is a life-changing thing. And a lot of people, like, they have their career, their dream. They have to put that on hold to go take care of a parent, whether it is dementia or something else. And like, that's kind of the world we live in. And I always give it up to those people who like step up, because there's also kids who like, you know what? Hey, I got my life, I'm just going to move on. And like, that's, I guess you could say like, a choice, but it's also like for the rest of us, how can you not?
So yeah, exactly.
And you got kids, so eventually, you're lucky. You got that boom.
Yeah, I know. And watching my wife deal with her mom, it's so tricky. Like how to get the care and what's the right place to be.
Oh, it's so much work.
It's so much work. And if to get into Medicaid, you have to make sure you have to prove that they have no money.
Yeah, exactly.
To spend down everything that they've ever made.
Yeah.
So then they'll take care of you.
Oh, dude.
It's such a sick system.
It's a real labyrinth of like, issues to get any kind of relief. So
yeah. But the thing that people don't know about you, Dave Attell, which I've observed my entire comedy career, was that you're a very, very kind, thoughtful person. And you truly are. You've always been so generous and giving, and I think about you that way all the time.
Well, that's really nice.
It's really true.
I like to think of myself more as a kind of person of interest, if you will. A dark presence. But I used to work at a comedy club when I first started. I worked at the Improv, and I know what it is to like be at a club night after night, especially if you're a comic and you're also a waiter, or you're a comic and you're a door guy or security, and like how you just want to get on stage. And so I feel like, like whenever I go to a club, I always bring stuff in, like some candy, buy pizza, whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's like a little, like just thanks. But
exactly.
I'd say that like the club world, what are you thinking right now? We're in the middle of this. Would you say we're in the middle, towards the end, or like the last moments of a comedy boom? What do you think?
Oh, about the comedy boom?
Yeah, let's talk about that. This is kind of more of a, business thing here. So.
Right. I would say, I don't know. I'm usually wrong about all of these trends and things. Whatever I say normally isn't true. Part of me feels like I'm watching so many really great comics all of a sudden selling tickets really hard on social media, which makes me think that maybe it's slowing down a hair.
Oh, is that? Oh, I didn't know that. But I'm not really on the web like that.
But then, you can't get Instagram on your flip phone.
No, but not on any apps or anything. But yeah,
right.
So you're seeing them sell tickets on different apps.
They seem to be pushing, making videos and like, hey, come see me. My tour is coming up, and where they just put them on sale and they sold like a couple years ago. So that's making me think maybe there's a little bit of a thing. But the other side of it is there's so many. Every comedian has their own following that doesn't really cross pollinate with other comics, and it's like if I think that can keep going.
I guess so. I guess you're right that there is definitely like these little like worlds of comedy, and that there's very few of them that kind of cross over or whatever. Like, I think in a lot of, I think the cool of what I've been seeing is that, you know, there are a lot more comics, you know, and there is definitely a lot more money out there. And, you know, I remember, you know, how like, you know, the whole idea of like, hey, this guy sold out Madison Square Garden, how that was the thing. Now you'd have to sell out for about 2 weeks straight, which comics can do.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm sure Bill Burr could do it easily, you know, just straight ahead, great shows, not a ticket left, 2 weeks at Madison Square Garden.
Crazy.
So even these like colossal venues have now been tamed by just the comedy world, like Chappelle and just these amazing like touring legends that are out there right now. And the other thing is that there's a lot of content. And like, I think that's part of like my own, like, wow, didn't this guy just do a special? He's got a new special. How is that possible? I'm still working on, you know, like I did a special last year. I mean, well, I guess I did a special this year, early in the year, and I got maybe 30 minutes of new material now. Right. You have a special out.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about touring after this?
Yeah, I have about 30 minutes of new stuff since I filmed it. And then I throw in some crowd work and throw in maybe a couple gems from the archives.
Yeah.
But it takes me a while to develop new stuff. It's, you know what I mean? Because
I totally know what you're talking about.
There's the thing about, well, I got to an hour. You hear people say, but I've got a new hour. And it's almost like they're just talking about time.
Yeah.
Being on stage for an hour. But do you have really good material to fill that out?
That is so true, Tom. Because like, I feel like every time I get one to work, two stop. And it's like, it's like a weird kind of like almost like a phone company. Like one's plugged in, two are plugged out. Like that kind of a weird game that I'm playing with myself.
Well, I've always felt that you have a high, what's the right phrase? You have you have a very high bar for jokes to get into the act and stay in the act. I've watched you have jokes that I would think, wow, that's a killer. And then all of a sudden it's gone and it didn't make the lineup. Where other comics, I think, would just hang on to it forever.
I feel like it's almost like if you want to talk about like joke tweaking, which is where like it works, and now you're like, I'm going to make it better, or I don't like how that is, I just need to fix that. Well, you tweak it and tweak it, until it doesn't work at all.
Yeah,
which is pretty much. I could say, if we could do that, it's like that would be a 2-hour special of jokes that I've ruined. You know, so but. I feel for you, man, because like once you get out on the road and like we're talking about, like, you know, you're out there and you're like, oh man, like, you know, I hope this crowd gets it because like I really got nothing else in, you know, I don't have that much ammo on me. You know?
Well, how did you feel after yours came out? Did you feel like I can't do? I
got some great reaction on it, and it really was cool to get. You know, like I have trouble. Like it's not like I have trouble letting go of the joke. I just always feel like they're not done or like that's not good. So to actually get them on tape, and the guy who was my director, Scott Gallagher, is a real comedy fan, and he really kind of held my hand, and he went above and beyond to like edit and make sure that like we got the best version of whatever we had. So, you know, I self-produced it, and like, you know, he's really good at working, I guess, with whatever I have going. So
how in what way was he the most helpful? Like,
well, first of all, it's a hybrid special. It's shorter. I wanted it shorter. I felt like an hour is like too much now. I saw our Earthquake special, and I was like, he did a half. You know, Chappelle was very cool to bring him back, you know, to like today's audience to see how awesome he is. And, you know, he did a half, and it left me wanting to see more. And I was like, yeah, the half hour is really the new hour in terms of attention span. And like, who knows? I've been saying that for a year now. Probably a half hour is too long, you know? But you can see that in any special. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how good it is. The half hour mark in a special, you'll see the comic himself go like, you know, it's like that. Like the marathon, like, you know, I don't have the runner's high yet, but I'm exhausted, you know, like, so, I mean, I don't know if you love time, like when do you love doing time? Because some guys love it. Like they can't get them down.
I know
they're up there and up there. And, you know.
They'll do 2 hours. No, I've never been that creature for sure.
I got to sell that merch. I could do 30 on stage in about 2 hours of merch.
Right? Have a meet and greet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when I've been back out since the special came out. If I am going to dip into the special at all, I'd take from the second half.
Oh,
because just to your point, I don't think a lot of people have seen that stuff.
I've been in that situation too, where you're thinking like, oh no, everybody knows and it's like none of them know it.
No,
they're bringing up credits from 20 years ago. They have no idea what I just did. So. Yeah, it's like.
But here's an interesting thing.
But I think that's because we're like professionals. Like we're trying to be the right person. Like you're bringing new stuff out there all the time.
I know, but here's something interesting because I could watch you do classic jokes every single night. If we were working here at the Cellar and you were doing the same joke, like you could do like an older joke, I would be into it. I love watching my friends' old stuff. Like I don't get tired of these jokes.
Okay, well,
why do you think that the public does?
Well, I think it's also I kind of like, I guess I'm not like there's only a few rules to live by, and that's one of them is that like you have to turn material, and that was another thing that I wanted to bring up about like this boom is that. People are turning content like that it never worked that way in comedy. Not that I'm coming to you from like the 50s or whatever, like, when I toured with Martin and Lewis, but it was like you had your act and you did it like, Don Rickles, who, like really like Don Rickles, like icon. Nobody could touch the guy in terms of like just pure funny. And like, his ability to move and roll with a crowd, that was developed not at a comedy club, but like at a strip club or at a nightclub.
Yeah.
He played every club but a comedy club because they weren't around then.
Yeah.
But like even his act towards the end, he had like a beginning, middle, and end. He had a band. He had the things that he did. And like Joan Rivers, who was not like that. She was constantly producing new content material and all that kind of like she's more of a modern day comic than those legends,
Yeah.
So I would say that there's a lot of guys who never did specials, and here are people doing multiple specials.
I know.
I mean, there's people now that have done more specials than George Carlin. And he really was the guy who like set the standard of like, I do one every year or whatever that was for HBO, every year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean,
no,
I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think a lot of people can is kind of the way I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, you're good, but you're not so great that you can knock out something every single year.
But I don't
think anyone is.
I'm like, who is it coming? Is it coming from the person or is it coming from the audience going, we want more? Like, well, I don't know.
That I was signing books.
Not my audience. I know that. They're like, we have enough.
No, when during your special, which you did at Cobb's in San Francisco, that's one of the things I really loved about your special. That crowd was so your crowd.
They're so good.
They were so motivated. It was just classic, great.
They were really
club audience. It was such a
San Francisco and Portland, Oregon, I think like have that kind of mystique to them. Well earned of just like a really cool down, like just like great down for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
And like I have pockets around the country that like kind of, but nobody touches them. Like especially Portland, like I did just 10 shows up there, 10 shows at Helium. It's a small venue. It's not like I'm playing
it's a great club.
But I was just like, even the Monday late show was better than some Friday early shows I've done in other towns. So it's like that shows you how good the audience is there. They're like, it's Monday, it's late, like people have stuff to do. Maybe they don't, maybe they do, but still like they were there for it.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a testament to you too, is that you draw.
It's not
it is
about me, Tom.
Yes, it is. You draw out really people who really appreciate and are hip to what really good comedy is.
I love when like audience person is a fan of comedy, not just the person they go to see. Like when you said earlier that everyone has the little thing. Like I always ask them, what comics do you like? What have you seen lately? Did you go see any of the shows?
Yeah.
And I kind of like want to find out like their, like the world, that they live in. And they're telling me like, I went to go see this guy at the theater and like, I love this podcast. Usually people bring up podcasts more than they do anything else. But I'm like, so who do you see live? And like, if they say like Doug Stanhope, who's my favorite comic, it's like, oh, well, I get it right away.
Right.
I think that there's definitely a difference between people who, like enjoy it in one I guess, medium, you can say
Mhm.
the podcast world, but also take the next step and come out and see it live and get it there as well.
Yeah.
And I could totally see it's not for everybody, but that's like really what we do. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And
I would say that's really best way to experience it.
they do. Back to the thing about whether or not they're just doing it for themselves and putting out new stuff all the time, where the audience wants it. It's insane that, like, just on the heels of a special, I'll have people comment like, when are you going to come out with a new one?
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's insane.
Doesn't it make you feel like you're like,
It's
like you're in a mental hospital somehow? Like,
yeah, just walking around and round and round.
And it's
Yeah.
like you put all that work into it and then you promoted it. Like, that's
Yeah.
another thing people don't get, like the endless promotion of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, then for somebody to go like, you know, somehow, you know, I was the eye of the hurricane. Nothing bad happened to me. You know, I didn't hear anything.
What's up with the drones in New Jersey?
That's a really good question. You know what? I've been following that story
Because
there's so many other things out there.
Yeah.
They're out there. I believe what town are they over?
They're over Oakland. They're over down by the shore.
Mm-hmm.
They're flying all over the place, and
How about over the Stress Factory? Now that would be something.
It's Vinny Brand.
That would be really awesome.
I would not be surprised if Vinny would have his own drone.
Well, I know there's no parking, so they would have to hover the whole time. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things happening out there, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you, Tom.
Why drones? Why New Jersey?
No, I went to the dentist before this.
Yeah,
that's how much work I put into a podcast.
No, you said that you didn't sleep, and then you said,
yeah, no, I had to get up very early for the dentist.
So that just screwed up you going to bed?
Yeah, no, I figured I'd stay up for the dentist, and then you know what? Get out some cards, whatever I got to do for the holidays, and then come visit my old buddy Tom.
Oh, nice.
But I wanted this whole thing of like, I go to the dentist every podcast because I want to have the best. I want to make sure everything is good.
What'd they do to you? Did they hurt you?
No.
That's good.
Well, you know, receding gums, of course. That is really, you know, I don't know what to tell you.
Did they do all the 6, 5, 6, 5, 5? Oof.
Oh yeah, they do that.
Yeah,
the pits and whatnot. And I did have 2 root canals this year. Don't tell the government.
What time do you go to bed that you stayed up for the dentist?
No, I didn't go to bed. I
know, but what time do you normally go to bed? Like I would
6, 9 in the morning when I don't have to travel.
For real?
I would say the travel now really dictates pretty much all aspects of my life at this point. If I have to go travel, like, and it's early, I'll just stay up. And I won't sleep on the plane, but I will hopefully sleep when I get there, if I get there early enough. And you know,
you go to bed at 6 o'clock in the morning?
6, 9 sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
No drugs.
That's
nothing. And they're like, why don't you take a melatonin? And I'm like, that's like fighting a tiger with a spoon.
But you're always doing late spots, and you're the only one.
I know,
because a lot of guys that we came up with, it's like if it's a 9 o'clock spot, they're like, it's a little late.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've done some early shows, and it was kind of like going back to high school, like, where have you been for the last 20 years? It's like, oh, I forgot. You're a normal person. You go on at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
God.
Right, exactly.
I've been back in the end there. You know, it's like I'm coming out of Guantanamo, basically. No, but I always loved the late spots. I used to get so much out of them. It was always fun. It was like a brawl. It was a knife fight. Now it's nothing like that. And I don't get much new material out of it. And like the new guys that I see there, you know, like sometimes it's better than the earlier shows. Sometimes it's not. But you know, to be honest, like New York and LA, I used to get a lot more, you know, like I think there was a cooler hang, and also like I would be able to get more material out of like not being on the road. But now I feel like you get it all on the road. Like,
oh really?
That's where I'm like,
what's changed,
you know,
in New York?
moving stuff around and like writing, you know, I just think that a lot of these crowds are touristy, and a lot of them, you know, there are some super fans that come down, but like, you know, what can I tell you? I don't know. I feel like there is a bit of a tightness in the metro, in the metro cities, you know?
Yeah. I remember you saying that early on, like you always bristled at the, when we got close to the holidays, because it changed the dynamic of what was coming to see comedy.
Now
this is
like
before it was so huge. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Now it's the holidays all the time.
Yeah. And
yeah.
And you know, it's like, I'm the first guy to beat up on a crowd, and like I'm like, like, hey, what's up with you people? And like that is the wrong way to go.
Yeah.
That's just the wrong way to go. It doesn't shake them loose like a coach. It just shuts them down. But at this point, like, but I always feel bad after every, like, I'm like, why did I say that? I could have said that. Yeah. And I'm up till 9 a.m.
So when you,
well, I'd like to throw it back at you. So
wait, hold on.
I feel like you get into bed at a reasonable hour.
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
And you own a robe. I see you take off a robe.
I do have a robe.
And then you're wearing your pajamas. You're in the bed.
Yeah. Like I'm on a, normally like in LA, I'll go to the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
I'll come home after doing a spot there, and then I'll be in bed around 11.
Wow.
And then up
what
at
time do you get up?
like 7:30.
Yeah, I like early too.
And then yeah, but you're not in bed yet.
No, but I like doing stuff early, like getting it done.
Yeah. And then I go do the radio show.
All right.
Like at 10. And yeah, so but my kids kind of set that schedule, like I had a family, so that kind of like,
so you have to get up at 6. What are these kids, like farmers?
Yeah, they'd have to go out to the
You
field.
didn't grow up in LA though, right?
No, I grew up in New Jersey.
Yeah, so that must have been weird. Like once you like moved out there and stayed out there, and like, kids don't even know about living anywhere else.
Well, no, they lived here for a long time.
Oh, they did?
We were back and forth for a long time. They went to PS 41 over here.
Did they like it here?
They did like it here. Yeah. One of them really liked it. It's so bad. They were like this. We made our kids into bad like 80s comics where they just walk around all the time going, the difference between New York and LA is. Yeah. And the one really likes it. And like she's still living here.
Oh, that's good.
And then the other one is just like, ugh, New York.
Yeah.
At a certain point, we were trying to figure out where we should live. And she's like, I just want to go back to California where I can hula hoop. Oh, yeah. It's like in a studio apartment. She couldn't even hula hoop,
Yeah, I guess that's like, but every time I've been out there, since everybody's all married up and like,
yeah,
it's very suburban. Like I'll drive to someone's house to do a podcast and it's a very nice house.
Yeah.
But it's like, like it's you, the guy you're podcasting with, and their maid. And it's just like the maid is just cleaning. And I'm like, when's her podcast? I would love to hear her side of these podcasts.
Yeah.
Like every day there's another person in here
talking about comedy,
bitching and moaning about it's hard being in a band. It really sucks being an artist. So
it's very suburban. When I come here, like I've been here for just the week doing a bunch of shows, and it's so much more.
I never would have survived as a young comic out there.
Never.
Just like with the driving. Like
yeah.
That would have killed me. Driving to these sets all the time.
Yeah.
In New York, you could always jump onto one.
How do you feel New York? Where's New York at right now? You're always.
Oh, I think we're in like a, I would say we're in a spiral, like we're heading, it's almost too expensive for anybody to really, you know how they say it's too expensive for New York to live in New York? No, it actually, you can live here. You just can't enjoy it. Like anything that you'd want to do is like beyond your means, right. Like a restaurant or something like that. You're like, hey, I mean, I like to take all my buddies out and blah, blah. It's like, no, you just can't do that.
Thousands of dollars.
I'm not like a big, like, I got to go to Broadway 3 times a month, that kind of guy. But like, I feel for the people who really are here for the culture.
Right.
I'm here. My job is here. My family, my mother.
Yeah.
But like, if you were here, like I moved here because, MoMA and like, I have to get to the Whitney and like,
yeah.
There's a new La Boheme is, like,
yeah.
I feel for you because that's like really pricey. It's like,
right.
Be better to be into heroin than it is to Broadway. It's cheaper. And that's my 2 cents.
I remember during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, we were outside and I was going to walk back to the hotel, and you were like, just so you know, it's not what the city is not what it was when you were here last. It's you got to keep your wits about you around on the streets right now. It's really kind of upsetting to see all these people out there just struggling and nobody's helping them. They're just wandering the streets, dangerous to themselves and to other people. Do you feel like that's gotten any better?
Yeah, we need more talking about it.
Yeah.
No, I really don't know. I really don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I also really don't know, like, when they started closing things and they would say it's because of the pandemic, it was really because of crime that like you can't get into an ATM after 10 o'clock. You couldn't, do this because of this and that. And they're like pandemic and this and getting people. It was all about crime. And I was like, yeah, well, that's a different New York than I was used to, because like in the 80s, and everybody's bringing up the 80s and the 70s, there are areas like where like I lived in the Lower East Side. So of course I'm going to see a guy shooting smack while he's wearing a raincoat and nothing, like I was going to see that. But now it's like, yeah, you live on the Upper West Side, you're going to see that. You're going to see a guy screaming and doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So there's a big problem. I don't think anybody really knows the answer for it, but whatever we're doing right now is not working. Yeah. And it'll ebb and flow where like people will forget about it. But the good news is this. Just last week, there was no, I guess I don't know when this comes out, but they had a big subway outage where like the power went out. People were trapped in the subway for 2 hours. Okay. Oof. And the first responders had to walk them out through like a tunnel, whatever, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So no one died. No one, attacked each other. No, nothing happened. It was like almost, it seemed like it was like a Squid Game event, like with turning the lights off and the tracks don't move. One of you will get to Brooklyn. The rest, I'm sorry.
It's a little hope.
Yeah, but everybody kept their cool. So, we still got that.
I was in Bushwick the other night doing a show for the band Guster. And I'd never been to Bush. I was always a Manhattan creature.
Yeah, and I lived in Brooklyn for a while.
I missed the whole Brooklyn Renaissance because my kids were growing up at that time.
Yeah, I'm like embarrassed to tell you this, but like when I lived out in Brooklyn, it was not cool. It was like you lived in Brooklyn because you can't afford to live in Manhattan,
right?
And I was constantly running in to do open mics, go back, go to my day job, all back and forth, and like I was like, if I only knew. If I only knew that Brooklyn was...
Yeah, right. I could be rich.
So go ahead. I'm sorry. So what's your thoughts on Brooklyn?
I don't know. I really don't know it. It's like I totally missed the whole renaissance of Brooklyn, the shows in Brooklyn, the Bell House of Brooklyn. But I feel like you were the same way. I feel like you were always
just a club
guy.
I know that was more of the alt scene, I guess. And I don't think you're allowed to even call it that anymore. It was just a different scene of comedy. But yeah, no, I never really, there was really nowhere to play when I was living in Brooklyn, but like it did become a bigger thing, I guess, in the 90s. And
when you were first starting to break through in the clubs here, who was like the senior class at the club?
Well, I always say that Alan Havey and Con Quinn were the guys that like I really did look up to them a lot. And like, I was just talking to Susie Essman and Judy Gold at the Gilbert Gottfried Memorial for the New York Comedy Festival. And like, Susie and Judy were two of the people I met like when I was really like a couple months into comedy. They were always super cool. And there was a bunch of people like, that like a lot of them moved to LA. A lot of them, I really don't know what they're up to, but I assume if you live in LA, then you're like living, I'm a writer, I'm waiting to hear, or like I'm doing this, I'm doing this,
I'm right.
Maybe they're doing nothing, but either way, I wish them the best. But like the big names, like Ray Romano, of course, was like, he was a great comic. He was touring, all that kind of stuff. So like, we'd hear, hearing, it was way before everyone was Raymond. So like, he was just a comic to enjoy and to want to be like, because he's that good at it.
Yeah.
And there was definitely people who stood apart, but then I also missed the other wave of the 80s people, because I got to meet Richard Jeni and a lot of the 80s comics, but most of them had moved to LA by the time I started in New York.
Oh yeah.
And it was really kind of like this little like wasteland of comedy, like everybody was waiting for their Seinfeld, sitcom. And I felt like, like I just want to do this stand-up thing. And like, a lot of them were like kind of bitter and tired of like the stand-up world. So.
Right. Were you ever tempted did people come to you and try and get you to write for them, or like?
Yeah. I would always get the kind of like, do you want to write, like jokes, like ghost write, or like, and I had some writing jobs, but it was never my thing. Like I really couldn't give this up. And it really is like, when you think about it, like, like nobody wants to coach if they can still play, like that kind of thing. So it's kind of like that, Yeah. And I really feel that in today's world of comedy, like with we're talking about like who you look up to and all that kind of stuff. Is like, I wish there was so much comedy to look at when I was like starting, because it really was like records and the records I listened to as a kid.
Right.
And then like all these A&E improvs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there was some like ability to like look at, but it was still like we judged ourselves, and we hoped to become someone who could get on a Letterman or a Leno or something like that. So that was very powerful in our world.
Yeah.
Like, one day, man, I'd love to get, like that 7-minute chance.
Yeah.
Stuff,
yeah.
It's amazing how now that really, it doesn't have any of the power that it did. Not only to make a career, but just to also like make yourself feel whole of like, well, at least I did that,
Right.
I did that,
Yeah.
I don't care. I could die tomorrow, but I was on, that.
It's funny though. It's, you talk about there was more like comics you could look up to and stuff. I find a lot of young comics, not all of them, but a lot of them who are like kind of making their way have very little knowledge of the comics who came before them. Really? It's almost like it's like looking at a different kind of craft or something. Like they don't know the names of all the great people that came before them.
I can see that. And it's like, I can see that just for the fact of like, they're busy, like they got a lot going on and there's a lot more to see. But my niece just like, my niece is actual works on a late night talk show. And, she just got out of college and like, she's making her way in that. And I was like, she sent me, do you like this guy? And I'm like, I couldn't even like open the email. I'm like, which guy are you talking about? There's like 5 guys. She sent me a YouTube thing. And she's like, that guy, the first guy. So I got to go listen to it. But yeah, no, I don't think I know anybody. And maybe that's, maybe part of it is just because like I go on late and I don't see everybody. But when I do see a new person and like, I like to see, like what they're doing. And we all do like, oh, they kind of remind me of this person. There's definitely some new ideas out there for sure.
Right.
But there's just also a lot of like, never saw that guy. So you don't really know you're doing his thing. Like, I think that's, that's happening as well.
We do a thing on this program called an uncomfortable moment.
Do you want to look at, I thought you were going to sign me up for an insurance. Okay.
And we have our Cracker Jack staff go through the archives and look up stuff. You're known as the preeminent joke writer and a lot of integrity and very people really look up to you.
Comes to butt.
I don't know if this is recent or if this is like more towards the beginning, but can you explain this photo?
I don't know if I'm more embarrassed about the shirt, which is not culturally appropriate, but I wish I had that skill. I mean, if we could really talk about ventriloquism, because I got to see Otto and George.
Oh, you did?
When I was younger. And I'm telling you, that was like, man, this guy was just wrestling with words up there. So I really
it could be you.
I don't know who to apologize for that image, but I will say one thing. I stand by what I did that night. And that was probably the last time you saw 2 men of the same persuasion on the same stage there. 2 lovers.
Would you ever do those NACA conventions?
I wish I had all those skills. I wish I could. Hypnotism.
Yeah.
Ventriloquism. Botulism. No, all of the isms would be great to have.
I did one of those NACA conventions where you perform to try and get college gigs, and I bombed. I just bombed. I thought, I was like, oh, it's the crowd. But then that guy, who was the comedian who used to do John Madden and
Frank
Caliendo.
Yeah.
He crushed. He just destroyed. And I was up there with like my beginning jokes, and I bombed. It was like in Indianapolis. And then they made you stand in the booth afterwards.
Oh, wow, you really did.
And try and make eye contact with people, like college kids, and like hoping that they'll come and give you a slip and go to the school. Nobody's looking at me. Everyone's avoiding me. And then finally one girl goes, oh my God. And she comes running over. I'm like, oh, thank God I get one gig out of this. And she went to the ventriloquist puppet next to me and goes, will you come to my school? And he's like, oh, maybe I can. I was like, oh God.
How great is it to give those kids all that power?
Oh my God. 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, I'd like to see what she's doing right now. I bet she is in heart surgery.
Oh, it was horrible. I called my father. I was like, I think I've made a horrible mistake. This is not a good career.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, becoming a comic and then becoming a comic making a living, that was always, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Really bad.
Where was your first like paid road gig?
I really don't even, I should remember that. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah.
But I think I did so many open mics for free. That's when people, if someone, let's say someone said to me, do you ever feel like you're making too much money? I'm like, I pretty much for 8 years didn't make any money.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like that, like it kind of balances out towards the end. But I was like, all those open mic sets, because I think now they kind of pay everybody a little something, it really depends. But I'm like, man,
years.
That was really like, I'm trying to think of the professional sport. It would be like, I guess, archery. Like I was making the money of a pretty good archer,
right?
Outside of the medieval world.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to say, but
mine was at Toppers.
Oh yeah, mine probably was at like a Pips or Toppers or something like that.
Yeah. Toppers out in Brooklyn. And Angel Salazar was opening for Angel Salazar.
Recently passed.
I know.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. And this was one of those where I thought I should quit. I did my little set. They were not having it. I was just sweating and bombing. And they didn't have a green room. They had a furnace room with a chair in it. That's where you would sit, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I really suck. And I just went in there. I'm like, this crowd's terrible. And then they announced Angel Salazar, and he came out with his boombox.
Yeah.
And his thing. And he just ripped the roof off the place.
Yeah.
I was like, I should quit. That's what a real comic is.
Yeah. I've had that a million times. A good buddy of ours, Greg Giraldo.
Yes.
Who was another guy who I could say like he could smell hack a mile away, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember we would talk jokes. Somebody's like, that's hack. And that,
Yeah.
But it was like, I've seen him sometimes like in situations like where he would like turn it on just to kind of spite the crowd.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That didn't happen in later years when the when the substance took over. But like he would be like playing it up for them and then he would just smack them down.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he was so great.
Those rooms were like I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it was good to do those rooms. Like I don't know what the equivalent now in these times would be.
Yeah. Probably
those,
road
like, Brooklyn,
stuff.
Queens rooms are now kind of like you go in there, it's like a mindfulness wellness experience.
Oh, really?
It's all about your feelings.
Yeah. I know. It's like, almost too supportive.
Yeah. It's like back then it was better to have no feelings.
Yeah. And everybody hate you. Remember doing prom shows at Caroline's at like 2 a.m?
Yep.
And they would just be throwing shit at you. It was just like
I really miss Caroline's. It really like
I know.
Really felt like, the world will change, but that place will be like kind of the center.
Yeah.
So
I know. I walked by the other day and it was just like, oh, it's gone. It's such a
what were you walking around
weird.
up there for?
What was I up there for? Oh, I was going to
on a radio somewhere. Is that what it is?
It was after radio, actually. Yeah. It was after radio on Jim Kerr. And then I went to go down to this perfume place. Okay. My daughter told me to go get something
Too
for my
much
wife.
Info. Well, like that part of town.
This is what happens to me, by the way, at every meet and greet. Someone asks me a question and I answer sincerely. Yeah. And you could just see like they were a fan of yours an hour ago.
Could have lied.
Then they just glaze over. They're walking away from you.
No, but that was the best part of that town. Like that part of town was like Caroline's was there, but then like there was so much to talk about. You had like Broadway right there, and then there's like all the crime, and like, hey guys, what's going on over at Sabaro? Like you had a lot of riffs you could do, like just like everybody saw it because they're waiting online.
And waiting to come in during the holidays. It would take you years to get to the club.
Yep, man, that was some good times there.
It was a good time. Those,
I mean, like what's the other legendary club here?
Comic Strip.
Oh, the one we're above, the Comedy Cellar.
Oh, the Comedy Cellar. Right,
like this block, it's kind of like a a train set of sadness. It's kind of like, sure, the stores change a little bit, but it never has the pizzazz of the Midtown. During the shed years, they have they're all down now.
Yeah,
you saw the streets. And
the outdoor stuff.
We've been lifted out of this bizarre world of the shedding.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, man, this is how it should be. And like, of course, it got super cold. We were like, it would be kind of cool to have some kind of shelter
structure.
But I'm like, that's like, there's really not much to like. I always try and talk about Mamoons, the greatest falafel. People don't get it. They don't like it.
No, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy though that like one block could be like, now this Dylan movie's coming out, and it's like this area, and
they're going to be more tourists coming now. That guy's a good Dylan, I think.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah,
I haven't
I
seen
don't
him
know.
yet.
Does he actually sing the songs?
I don't know.
I mean, what's Dylan going to say anyhow? And who will understand it?
Yeah. I know.
Talk about a guy who never stops touring. It's that guy.
I know.
Wow, dude.
I know.
Honestly.
Never.
I mean,
don't
that's
you
pretty
feel like you're just
impressive.
going to go forever? Don't you feel
My
like?
God, I hope I don't have to, but I'm sure I would like to. But I don't know. There's got to be some. I got.
That's such a weird statement, Dave. I don't think. I hope I don't have to, but I'd like to. Like,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, can you call in a favor? I got to get on a cruise ship. I need that money.
Yeah.
But like, if you're like, hey, I like doing it, then
Yeah.
why not? Why not stop?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why not stop?
Right. Just keep on. Just keep going.
Keep going until they boo you off the stage.
Do you still love the road?
I think everybody says the same thing now. It's like the road's great. It's the travel that sucks. And the travel really does suck. And like, the first thing I ask is like, is that a connecting flight?
Yeah.
Can I leave in the morning? That kind of thing. So like, that's just the world that I have to deal with. But I'm sure a lot of guys, like it, I think there's a lot of misconception on like show business travel, like private jets and tour buses and stuff like that. That's a very 1% of a 1% of doing that. The rest of us are just pretty much out there, like, you know what I'm saying?
Driving, getting a rental car, driving another 2 hours.
And then it's like, I'm sick of flying. So you start driving, then you realize like, that's another nightmare. And then you go back, so it's like, it is what it is. That's why I was like, hey, you got a podcast, so you don't go on the road for a while. Is that cool? Or
no, I'm constantly on the road.
Oh, okay.
I'm constantly on the road and squeezing podcasts.
Check your dates.
Yeah, no, it's nonstop. I was just my worry about the road now. Last week I went to York, Pennsylvania, so I flew into Philly and then got a rental car, and everything was delayed. So, and then the 2-hour drive to the theater was like through farmlands in this scary 2-lane highways with trucks coming at you. And I was like,
doing the driving,
and I'm doing the driving. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this.
You gotta get a guy with you who can drive.
Yeah,
lady. You gotta get someone who can drive.
Someone young who's got some skills and some eyes.
I usually bring headliners on the road with me. If I, unfortunately, like, they're also headlining. So, but if I can't I would also, and when I do shows, I bring on locals to do guest spots so that they can get in front of a good crowd.
Oh, nice.
But the majority of the time, it's like, yeah, I'm too old to drive, so if somebody can, help me out there, then I'm like, okay, I can do a lot more gigs,
Yeah. No.
But yeah, that is crushing when you're like driving.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
No lights.
Yeah. And it was like the Schuylkill Highway. And when I got to the gig, everyone said, oh, they call that the shore kill. Because everybody gets run over by trucks. I'm like, holy shit, I can't do this anymore.
And then you brought it up on stage, and they don't want to talk about it, or they did?
No, they did.
Okay,
they were like, they were like,
I hate when the town gets defensive about their own problems. So what if our water catches fire? Who the F are you to tell us?
Yeah. Do you still like the clubs more than like a small theater kind of vibe?
I don't play enough theaters. I think I was telling Ryan Reese and I, we were both, who's a very funny guy. And like, he talk about a guy who commits, like, boom, like, he does warm-ups for TV. That's the hardest of the hard. So he's like rock solid. But I was like, I don't think my pacing is working in like a bigger venue. And like every little joke is littler. Every like, I don't have all that stagecraft of being like a theater act, like learn how to, pause and wait and all those different things. But, when I look at the comics who really are like great in the theater, it's not all high energy. A lot of it is just bringing people in and like keeping them there.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the reactions that you get are way different. Like sometimes it's just like, like, oh, and like they laugh at it because they think that's a joke, but it's not. It's just something to break up the monotony of talking. So I feel like in a club, you got to earn every laugh.
Mm-hmm.
In a theater, you got to kind of set it all up for the wave of laughter. It's like a lot. I'm not that good.
You like the pacing of a club better.
I mean, I definitely should have done more theaters. I think just to get just to figure out how to do them better. But I would say there's nothing better than the energy of a club.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, even with everything that goes on, the check spots, the drinks and all that kind of stuff, it's still like, to me, feels more more right than a theater of where everyone's just sitting and looking.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes you'll luck out and get people sitting and looking in a club, which everybody immediately is like, "What's wrong with you?" In a theater, you're like, "Hey, I'm doing great." They're looking and looking at me. You know?
Right. Yeah.
They're looking and looking.
Yeah. Do you record your sets?
I do.
You do?
I used to listen to, like, every day. I would force myself to listen. I hate listening to myself. I think it's a really, like, a self-hate to, like, listen to yourself like that.
It's rough.
But now, like, if I can get like 1 or 2 a week, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah, that's good.
The longer and longer you wait on a set, like, then it becomes like a surprise how bad it was. Or like,
I know.
are you still doing that joke when you thought like I'd be way past it?
Yeah.
And like, that's the sad of listening to your own tape.
Recording in a club is always a surprise to me when I gain up the confidence to listen to it, is how much other noise is going on when you're on stage.
Oh,
you think it's just you, other people and glasses, and it's just like, oh, I'm a small portion of this recording right now.
Yeah. I like when you can hear whispers and then you get off and it's like, you were great. Oh, I love that last joke. It's always, I love the last joke, the last one I listened to.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, like, did you ever, like, because I see the younger comics now, they record themselves with a GoPro. And I'm like, so you're really watching yourself every night like that? Like, you're watching.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have so many bad habits and I hate, like, you know, I like self-hatred, my ugly look.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, if they had that, like, when I was starting out, I definitely would have, like, offed myself. I'd been like, wow, oh God, that's terrible. You remember there used to be a guy who made tapes for you?
Yeah,
like he would make VHSs so that you could send them out to get club work and all.
Yeah,
everybody had to have.
You get a box of tapes.
Yeah, you get a box of tapes. You're supposed to give them to club owners. They would let you know. So I remember like looking at one and I was like, oh my God. I remember like being drunk or something like that. And I ripped the tape out of the thing. It was so hard to do. Like I didn't even have the strength to rip a VHS tape.
This is how far back we go. You came to the club once and you were handing out old porn on VHS.
Yeah.
And I took a bunch of them and I was like, oh, this is exciting. And then I went home and Cynthia did exactly what you said, pulled the things out.
She did.
She destroyed all the VHS tapes.
You know what I did wrong is that I should have taken those old VHSs and repurposed them into shoes. Think about it right now. Kids are wearing everything out there. Why not porn? You're stepping in. You know,
yeah,
I'm stepping in it. You know, I can see like the basketball player. I'm stepping in it. You know, I mean, honestly,
you had a good porn show.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
yeah.
I had a porn show on Showtime. That was another one where it's like, great idea. And the guy who helped me do that was Jeremy. And I'm not giving out anybody's real last names here, but he's really like the best editor, the best comedy fan. He just helped me with my computer. He's such a good guy.
Yeah,
and like. You know, we both put a lot of work into that. I put a lot of my own money.
It was good,
but it was fun to do.
Yeah,
and it was also like there's something about the vintage that is still kind of classic. But you know, as we get like the world we live in now, it's like who's going to dig in on porn when there's so much OnlyFans out there. There's so much other stuff going on. So I would say everything. I always feel like it's about execution. You know. Like, how you like every idea is doable. It's how you execute it and how your follow through is. And I'd say my follow through was pretty good, but the execution of it was like the network wasn't really behind it. They never really promoted it. And they really didn't, to be honest, they just wanted to get like any big name I could get to be on the show, to be on the network. And I'm like, I totally get it now. But at the point, at that point, I was like, well, why didn't you like just tell me that from the beginning so that like I could have asked more like, sports celebrities or somebody else who would be cool instead of hammering the comics. Like, come on, we're going to make fun of porn. It's going to be a lot. So,
more into
it was a lot of work. I always give it up for these people who like, I'm a producer, writer, director.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a lot of,
I know.
It's a lot of coffee.
It's funny. I was getting coffee this morning and heard these two people in a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the same. It was the producer. And they're like, we've got this great idea. It's going to be a podcast and it's going to evolve into this. And it's going to be, and then we're going to release books off of it. And then we're going to make that into a cable show, all with the long game of maybe doing a short film about it. And just them pitching sounded to me so exhausting.
Where were they doing
just
that?
A little coffee shop in Soho. And I'm like, just everything you just said is, I don't want to do any of it.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I would have immediately jumped in there and said like, I'm an intellectual property lawyer, or something like that. Try and crypto scam them out of there.
Yeah.
everything you said is on the mark, but there's a way to kind of light speed this idea. You gotta know the talk.
Right. Yeah. I was never good at that.
But I would say that, there's not a confidence problem out there, like people really seem to believe in themselves, and I can see the cockiness out there in terms of like both audience and comic.
Yeah,
a lot of people really dig in on what they do. And
I know there's nothing worse. There's nothing more like mind blowing to me is when you see someone get up there and they'll just go for like 6 minutes without even trying to get to a joke. You know what I mean? It's like
pretty amazing.
The panic in my chest of like, where's the jokes? How are you still standing up there without sweating?
Yeah, in the old school tri-state area, where the club manager had power.
Yeah,
back in the day, that they'd be like, you got 2 laughs,
right?
2 laughs. All right. I can get more laughs, doing, they would always say how better they are than you anyhow. But they would be like, I can get more laughs, like doing this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, today, like the club owner would never say that's considered hate speech.
Right.
Like,
right.
Hey, I kind of get what you're doing, like looking away, like, oh my God.
I know. I remember Danny from Rascals. Remember the guy from Rascals in New Jersey? The suits and the thing, and he was I was just starting out. He's like, don't put your water on the stool before you say hello to them. You'll lose them. You got to make sure you say hello and then put the thing on there. I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like they were that into your shit of like this. Let me tell you, kid, how it's gonna work.
Oh yeah, where they have this sage advice.
Yeah.
And they would tell you like back then when Dice was so big, especially this area, he's a god.
Yeah.
So, they would be like quoting his stuff while I was, like pretty much to themselves, like just to keep them going.
Right.
It's like the fumes of like a great comic while I was slowly petering out. But, it all, whatever. Like, who knows? I mean, was it worth it? Was it not? Who knows? I mean, we're here right now. So
it was worth it, and it's still worth it, and you're still great. It really is. I
don't care how I am.
It is. I know you don't care, but I care. And
that's nice.
And it truly, when I first showed up, there was nothing more intimidating to watch than you on stage.
Oh no, it was comments to me.
No, there wasn't, and you were so incredibly good and contagious, and it was intimidating.
Well,
and that we can all these years that we can actually sit and chat. It means a lot to me.
I don't know what you're doing, but that dog stopped barking. So you are a dog whisperer and a confidence man.
Yeah.
Well, Tom,
it's really.
I don't know what you're doing for the holidays, but I assume you'll be with family and whatnot.
Yes,
and it's great seeing you, buddy. I always say it like. All the guys who move west, you like always wondering what they're up to. But like, it's great to know that like now that we're, I guess you could say, locked together.
Yeah.
I'm up at 9. You're up at 6. Boom. Yeah. Are we thinking it? I can give you a quick morning. Hey, buddy. You got your juice? Remember to take your vitamin B.
Well, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm hearing the dog scratching again.
Yeah, he's getting a little frisky.
He's getting a little jumbly.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much, Dave. You are the best. And,
Tom, back at you, buddy.
And you're always an inspiration.
And to the super comedy fans out there, I was just breaking bread with Tom Papa. How about that now? Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dave.
Check out my site. Aren't you going to plug anything?
Yeah, what do you got?
Just go to daveattell.com. I'm putting up new dates all the time. 2025, I will be out there. Hope to see you live at a show.
Yes, go see Dave Attell. We got it, Mike.